video, I'm going to teach you how to do the purl stitch. And the purl stitch is just a beautiful stitch that has this nice texture, these bumps, if you will, these pearls, if you will. And you know, it just creates a beautiful pattern, a beautiful texture for scarves and hats and blankets. I mean, endless projects. And what you'll also find is that many projects call for both the purl stitch and the knit stitch. So knowing the purl stitch and the knit stitch, I mean, you can do endless amounts of projects knowing just those two stitches. I also wanted to show you the difference in what it looks like depending on the type of yarn that you're using. So obviously you can see here with this yarn that's much thinner, you know, it still creates a beautiful texture on both sides and you know, can make for beautiful projects. But obviously it's very different than some of this chunkier, heavier yarn. But nonetheless, you create the purl stitch the exact same way, whether, you know, regardless of the type of yarn that you're using. So let's go through it. So once you have your stitches casted on, what you're going to do with the purl stitch is basically the opposite of what you do with the knit stitch. So since you've now just trained your hands and fingers how to do the knit stitch, you just have to basically train them to do the opposite, which takes a little bit of time, but believe me, you'll get there with some practice. So like the knit stitch, you know, the yarn is, our working yarn is back here. We're going into the back of the needle. We're going to do the opposite. So instead of our working yarn being behind our project, we're actually going to bring it to the front of our project. And then instead of going from bottom to the back here, we're actually going to go from the top down to the front. It'll still create that X here, but again, we're going from top to bottom, and our working yarn is in the front. And so once you have your needle in front of your back needle, your working needle in the front, you're going to take your yarn and you're going to create a loop, and you're going from back to front with your loop. Now you have this loop in between your two needles. You're simply going to pull that needle through and then pop it off the top and tighten it up there. And so that's your first purl stitch. And you can see the purl stitches create these bumps on the front. So let's do it again. We have our working yarn in the front, and just like when I do a knit stitch, I like to just wrap the yarn around one or two fingers and then grab it, and then I'm holding it. So I have my working yarn in the front, create the right tension for you. Now I'm going to slide my stitches up just to the top a little bit, and then make sure you're holding on to your stitches because it's very easy for them to slip off. So use your pointer finger here to hold on to that knit or onto that stitch so that it doesn't pop off. Now I'm going to go in from the top. I have my working yarn, and I'm going to go around, okay, again, around from back to front. I now created a loop there. And so now I'm going to pull that loop through and pop it off the top. And so now I have another one with a little bump, another stitch with a purl. So again, my working yarn stays in the front. I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. I'm going to put my loop around so that I create a loop right there in between the two. And then I'm going to slide, again, I'm holding on to this stitch so it doesn't pop off prematurely. Now I'm going to scoop that loop, and now I can slide it off and pop it off the top. Again, my working yarn stays in the front. I like to just slide my stitches up a little bit just to create some looseness so the stitch isn't so tight. And now I slide top to bottom. I'm going to go around the needle. And then I'm going to scoop that loop and pop it off the top. Okay, now you can see we have 4 purl stitches. And so sometimes you just gotta check your tension again. And now again, we're gonna go in to the front, around from back to front, slide it behind, pop it off the top. And if you watch my other videos, you'll know that my kids like to create little sayings, little chants when they're knitting. And so how it works for the purl stitch is that we're gonna go in the front window. We're gonna go around the house. Then we're gonna go out the back window and we're gonna pop it off the top. So again, we're gonna go into the front window. I'm holding on to that stitch here. We're gonna go around the house, back to front, back window, pop it off the top. Go into the front window. So sometimes it can get tight. So again, I like to just be able to slide my stitches to the tip to create some looseness here. But just be mindful, if you're not holding on, these stitches will pop right off. So I'm holding on here. I'm going in from the top. I'm gonna put my yarn, go around the house, and now I'm coming out my back window and I'm popping it off the top. So front window, go around the house, back window, pop it off the top. Front window, around, let me get some more yarn here. Around the house, back window, pop it off the top. My working yarn is in the front. I'm going in from the top, going around the house, going out my back window. I'm going to let go and pop that loop off the top. Last one. Front window, go around the house. Now I'm gonna slide that out to my back window, pop it off the top. And there you go. And so now we've created a row of purl stitches, and you can see how they create that nice texture. So there's a nice texture on both sides. So that's what that looks like with this type of yarn. What I absolutely love is what it creates with this thicker yarn. Isn't this beautiful? I love it. So same thing, it just creates a different look. I should say it's the same stitch, right? But it's just, it looks different depending on the type of yarn you're using. So again, we're gonna get our stitches close to the end. I'm gonna hold onto them. I'm coming in the front. I have my working yarn. I'm gonna hold it in the front of my needle. And now I'm gonna go around the house. I'm gonna scoop that loop to the back window and pop it off the top. If it's too loose, you can just give it a little tug and, oh, sorry. And give it a little tug and it'll tighten it up. So again, we're going in the front window here. I'm holding on to this stitch so it's not going anywhere. We're gonna go around the house, out the back window, and pop it off the top. Again, my working yarn is in front. I'm gonna slide my stitch to the end there. Front window, around the house, back window, pop it off the top. Front window, around the house, back window, pop it off the top. Front window, around the house, sometimes I use my thumb too to kind of push to make sure that that stitch stays on the needle. I'll just give it a little push with my thumb, pop it in the back window, and then pop it off the top. See, you can start to see these purl stitches forming. All right, front window, go around the house, use my thumb to squish it through to the back window and pop it off the top. Sliding these stitches down, front window, oops, around the house, back window, pop it off the top. Front window, around the house, push it through to the back window and off the top. Working yarn again is in the front. I'm controlling the tension with this hand, my right hand. And so I'm going into that front window, going around the house, pushing that back with my thumb, through the back window, pop it off the top. So, you know, your right hand is working just as much as your left hand. They work together. So front window, I'm holding on to that stitch. I'll go around the house, push it through to the back window, pop it off the top. Last but not least, front window, around the house. Oops. Push it through, pop it off the top. Give it a little tug. Oops. Not too hard. Oh, okay, so look, this is perfect. So I pulled that off and the stitch, it didn't take. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that back in and I'm gonna do it again. So I'm going to go into that front window. I'm gonna go around the house, push it through, and off the top. And there we go. And now we have another row. Look how beautiful that is. I love it. And so you've got your pearls that create that beautiful texture, that beautiful pattern. This, like I said, makes for great scarves, hats, blankets, all sorts of things. And I like to definitely use this thicker yarn. It just has such a great feel to it. So there you go. Those are your purl stitches.